Intel Core is a brand name used for various mid-range to high-end consumer and business microprocessors made by Intel. In general, processors sold as Core are more powerful variants of the same processors marketed as entry-level Celeron and Pentium. Similarly, identical or more capable versions of Core processors are also sold as Zen processors for the server market. The current lineup of Core processors includes the latest Intel Core i7, Intel Core i5 and Intel Core i3, and the older Intel Core 2 Solo, Intel Core 2 Duo, Intel Core 2 Quad, and Intel Core 2 Extreme lines. Enhanced Pentium M BASD main article, Enhanced Pentium M microarchitecture. For details about the processor Core, see IONA microprocessor. The original Core brand refers to Intel's 32-bit mobile dual-core x86 CFS derived from the Pentium M branded processors. The processor family used a more enhanced version of the Intel P6 microarchitecture. It emerged in parallel with the NetBurst microarchitecture Intel P68 of the Pentium 4 brand, and was a precursor of the 64-bit Core microarchitecture of Core 2 branded CFS. The Core brand comprised two branches, the Duo dual core and Solo Duo with one disabled core, which replaced the Pentium M brand of single-core mobile processor. The Core brand was launched on January 6, 2006 by the release of the 32-bit IONA CPU, Intel's first dual-core mobile low-power processor. Its dual-core layout closely resembled two interconnected Pentium M branded CFS packaged as a single die-piece silicon chip IC. Hence, the 32-bit microarchitecture of Core branded CPU, Core Solo Intel Core Solo 5. Product code 80538 uses the same two-core die as the Core Duo, but features only one active core. Citation needed. Depending on demand, Intel may also simply disable one of the cores to sell the chip at the Core Solo price. This requires less effort than launching and maintaining a separate line of CFS that physically only have one core. Intel used the same strategy previously with the 486 CPU, in which early 486SX CFS were in fact manufactured as 486DX CFS but with the FPU disabled. 64-bit Core microarchitecture BASD main article. Core microarchitecture. The successor to Core is the mobile version of the Intel Core 2 line of processors using cores based upon the Intel Core microarchitecture 6, released on July 27, 2006. The release of the mobile version of Intel Core 2 marks the reunification of Intel's desktop and mobile product lines, as Core 2 processors were released for desktops and notebooks, unlike the first Intel Core CFS that were targeted only for notebooks. Although some small form factor and all-in-one desktops, like the iMac and the Mac Mini, also used Core processors. Unlike the Intel Core 2 is a 64-bit processor, supporting Intel 64. Another difference between the original Core Duo and the new Core 2 Duo is an increase in the amount of Level 2 cache. The new Core 2 Duo has tripled the amount of onboard cache to 6 MB. Core 2 also introduced a quad-core performance variant to the single and dual-core chips, branded Core 2 Quad, as well as an enthusiast variant, Core 2 Duo. The majority of the desktop and mobile Core 2 processor variants are Core 2 Duo 8, 9, with 2 processor cores and a single Marrome, Conroe, Allendale, Penryn or Wolfdale chip. These come in a wide range of performance and power consumption, starting with the relatively slow ultra-low power A10W and low-power LXXXX 17W versions, to the more performance-oriented PXXXX 25W and TXXXX 35W mobile versions and the X65W desktop models. The mobile Core 2 Duo processors with an S prefix in the name are produced in a smaller Microsign FCBG 956 package, which allows building more compact laptops. Within each line, a higher number usually refers to a better performance, which depends largely on core and front-side bus clock frequency and amount of second-level cache, which are model-specific. Core 2 Duo processors typically use the full L2 cache of 2, 3, 4 or 6 MB available in the specific stepping of the chip, while versions with the amount of cache reduced during manufacturing are sold for the Core 2 Quad. Core 2 Quad 10, 11 processors are multi-chip modules consisting of 2 dies similar to those used in Core 2 Duo, forming a quad-core processor. This allows twice the performance of a dual-core processors at the same clock frequency and ideal conditions. Initially, all Core 2 Quad models were versions of Core 2 Duo desktop processors, Kentsfield derived from Cairo and Yorkfield from Wolfdale, but later Penryn Quebec was added as a high-end version of the mobile dual-core Penryn. The Xeon 32XX and 33XX processors are mostly identical versions of the desktop Core 2 Quad processors and can be used interchangeably. Core 2 Extreme and Core 2 Extreme processors, 12, 13, are enthusiast versions of Core 2 Duo and Core 2 Quad processors, usually with a higher clock frequency and an unlocked clock multiplier, which makes them especially attractive for overclocking. This is similar to earlier Pentium processors labeled as Extreme Edition. Core 2 Extreme processors were released at a much higher price than their regular version, often $999 or more. Nehalem Microarchitecture. Bast main article, Nehalem Microarchitecture. With the Nehalem Microarchitecture 14, Intel introduced a new naming scheme for its core processors. There are 3 variants: Core i3, Core i5, and Core i7, but the names no longer correspond to specific technical features like the number of cores. Instead, the brand is now divided from low-level i3 through mid-range i5 to high-end performance i7, 15, which correspond to 3 to 5 stars in Intel's Intel processor rating, 16, as opposed to the entry-level Celeron 1 star and Pentium 2 stars processors. 17. Common features of all Nehalem-based processors include an integrated DDR3 memory controller as well as QuickPath interconnector, PCI Express and direct media interface on the processor, replacing the aging quad-pumped front-side bus used in all earlier core processors. Also, all these processors have 256 kilobits L2 cache per core, plus up to 12 megabytes shared level 3 cache. Because of the new input-output interconnect, chipsets and main